Welcome to the podcast of All About Me, our first project in art at Rankin Elementary. After composing your drawing about yourself, you're going to outline that with Sharpie over your pencil. If you get off, it's no big deal. You can just simply erase your lines later. You can add a background, and then you can go back with your Sharpie and make some of your lines thicker than others. This will make some of your objects appear to be bolder and stick out more than others. Another thing you can do with your Sharpie is to loosely outline and use some sketchy lines. They don't have to be as clean and even as my apple was. You can also add texture with your lines from, you can see that I'm doing that for my basket. Lastly, I'm going to make my artist palette bold like my paintbrush. Then I'm ready to add some colored marker. The colored marker is going to blend and bleed with your watercolor, but the watercolor will be sheer. So we're going to add some bold color with this water-based color marker. We're using Crayola today. So you can add shadows or just a scribbly line to the inside of your shapes that you know you're going to paint. I'm adding a shadow to my eggs as well. Here I'm adding the highlight of my basket or my bird's nest because I know I'm going to paint it brown. So I'm adding the highlight to the paintbrush as well, knowing I will add some brown paint. And I'm going to draw the wood grain onto my artist palette. That's the pattern we naturally see on wood. I'm also going to add some color to my pattern I've created in the background. You can see first I'm just going to do a green squiggly line through every other stripe. Then I'm going to take a dark red and create a pattern of just straight lines going through the other lines in the background. You can choose whatever type of background you want or a border. Lastly, I'm going to make sure with my Sharpie that all my black lines are bold enough before I get ready to paint. Here I'm ready to paint. I'm just going to add a light layer of watercolor over my marker. It's important to remember that all your watercolor doesn't have to be the same darkness. So here I'm lightly adding this red. It's not going to be as bright as my marker, but I'm blending that marker in just a little bit with the same color, or a color similar. Here I'm adding the brown to my paintbrush, and you'll see I add brown where I think it would be darkest, where the shadows on my paintbrush would be. I'm going to leave the center a little bit lighter. This makes my paintbrush appear to be round. Here I'm getting ready to paint my apple, and see how I use my tip to make sure I'm staying in my lines? I'm also using it lightly so that my marker lines still show up. Watercolor is meant to be translucent, so I dip in the water before I get paint each time. Again, using that tip to make sure I stay inside my lines, if that's the look I'm looking for. And that's most definitely what I was looking for on my apple. Painting my paintbrush yellow, spreading out that paint very thin. I can add a second layer to it if it's not as dark as I would like for it to be. Lastly, I'm going to paint my palette. See how I use that tip to go around my shapes? It's okay if it gets on the inside of it a little bit. Spreading out that paint nice and thin. Again, on my artist palette, I'm making some parts of it darker and leaving some parts lighter. Wood naturally has light and dark places to it, so this makes it look very natural. Lastly, I need to paint my background. All sections of your paper should be painted. Nothing should be left white, unless it's something that is supposed to be white, like a black and white cow or a milk jug or something that just has to be white. You can see here that the pink and the yellow really do mix a little bit to make orange. My paint looks more orange than yellow. But do remember that your paper is going to look a little bit different when it dries. These dark areas on my paper are going to be much lighter once it dries. I continue to go across. Now I'm ready for my pastels. This is going to be the last thing you do after you have completed your drawing and your painting and it's all dry. And you can just add some last minute color. So if you want to add some more blue in an area, or you see I'm adding yellow, I'm not coloring it all the way in. And if you wish to make those black lines bold again, make them really stick out, you can take the black pastel and use the side of it so that you get a clean edge. And I'm going to lightly press down. You can see I get it all over my hands. Pastels can be very messy. And that's it. Thank you very much.